Welcome back, everybody, to another Jacko the Soccer Bro video, and we are hopping back into the F1 world for today's video. All 10 manufacturers have released their liveries for the 2022 season, so I've taken it upon myself to look at them, see what I like, what I don't like, and rank them 1 through 10.
I hate pickles.
Jack puts this one by Max, past the Colin, and blows by Max, goes up for the sling. So, starting off right away, number 10, we are going to have the Alpine for this year. The pink and the blue on this car do not work, and I am a fan of pink and blue put together. Like, it's my Rocket League car, it's my main in that game, just pink and blue, but it doesn't work for this one. The shade of pink they use does not match with the steel blue, especially considering I think that the BWT is a different shade of blue than the steel blue on the Alpine that worked so well last year. And also, if you look at it, the BWT logo on the side pods, like where the pink meets the blue, it feels like they just took two different pieces of car and threw them together into one for this year. Like, if you see, just a car out on the road, on the street, and it's got a red door when it's a black car, it looks like that kind of thing to me. So for that reason, it's going to be the number 10. Also, the map-free red doesn't work with the pink. It clashes really hard. And then that French flag up in the top corner of the car doesn't work either. I know what they were going for, just to match the Alpine vibe from last year. That works really nicely. And you'll see that I don't have a bias against the flags in the cars that come up next after this one, but it doesn't work this time around. So for that reason, this one's going to be a 4 out of 10. Saying 5 is average, 0 is there's legitimately not even a car in front of me, and 10 is the greatest car I've ever seen. Nothing I can possibly change to make it better. So, number 9, we are going to have the blank Haas for this year. Now, I do not think this is the complete car. I think they're going to come out with something different in the Bahrain testing coming up in a week or so, but it's red, white, and black. Nothing else I can really say about it. 5 out of 10 average. I'm not going to talk too long on this one. This isn't the final car. There's no way. Moving on, number 8, I'm going to have the Mercedes for this year. I know I am high on the black Mercedes look, but the silver, it's good, but it just doesn't really cut it for me this year. On track, it looks a little bit bland. This image is actually a pretty flattering look of the car, and the side pods on this one don't look that great compared to some of the others coming up ahead. However, I have heard today that they do have a new side pod design that they're coming out with in Bahrain that it's apparently a lot different and a lot faster. So who knows, and they might be in a completely different place than 8th on the design list. Also, another critique I have of this one is the red Ineos on the inside of the rear wing and the inside of the front wing. I feel like it's a bit too much, but obviously it's a sponsor. I'm assuming there's not much they can do to change that, because that red doesn't really match with the rest of the car much. I feel like it's fine just where it is up top, and they can leave it there, but obviously, sponsors can't really do that. Kind of disappointed by the Mercedes this year, I won't lie to you. I know that the silver, black, and teal can work fantastically together. It's two simple colors and then the flashiness of the teal, but this year doesn't do it. So for that reason, I'm going to give this one a 6 out of 10. Moving on to the number 7 car for me, it's going to be the McLaren. This one I absolutely hated at first on their launch day for it. Just the orange, blue, and black, they can work well together, but this one didn't do it for me. I feel like the orange is obviously the primary color, but then the blue and the black are fighting too hard to be the secondary color, and I feel like if they just chose the blue to be the second color and the black to be the third color, or vice versa, it would work a lot better, but they didn't do that. So it creates a bit of a clash there. I also feel like this car looks a lot better on track than it does in the renders, which is why I have it at 7th instead of 8th and above the Mercedes. It looks better on track at least. This one's gonna be, it's a step better than the Mercedes, so I'll just give it a 6.5 out of 10. Not great, but it's all right. It'll definitely grow on me as the year goes on. I feel like this is going to be the car that does that for me. Coming in at number 6 now, I have the Red Bull for this year. Usually Red Bull release amazing liveries, and this year, at first glance, was no exception. except when they came out with it in Spain testing, when they had the really aggressive side pod approach, it made just the ratio of where things were on the car look a little bit funky. Like the Oracle logo on the side pod didn't seem to look right. And they also changed it up, added a sponsor on the front wing instead of the Red Bull text, which I was a fan of. And the biggest thing about this car is just that big yellow banana nose. It's a lot of yellow. I feel like they need to add their logo or something onto the front of it just to maybe break up that much of that one color. So it's Red Bull. It's obviously never going to be a bad livery, but it's not their best work from the most recent years. For that reason, I'll put it on the same level as the McLaren. I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10, but just it's a step better. I mean, less than a step better, not by much. Moving on, my number 5 car. This one I feel like is going to come as a surprise to a lot of you F1 fans out there, but I have the Alfa Romeo. I feel like just the color blocking of the red, white, red, it's simple, and I am a fan of simple, as you will see later on, but this one just doesn't cut it for me. I feel like I could hop onto the F1 game and throw this together in 2 minutes and call it good. And I must say the biggest thing I dislike about this car compared to last year's, which I'm pretty sure I gave the number 1 spot, was it's the text, Alfa Romeo. I feel like if they stuck with their logo there, they could have made it white on the red or put it red on the white, and it would look a lot better in my opinion. That and the fact that the Orlen sponsor is a much more scarlet, orangey red compared to the cherry red of the Alfa Romeo, so that creates a bit of a clash there. But the big redeeming factor about this car is the rim covers. That red and white Pokeball looking design is really nice, especially compared to some of the other teams that really didn't do much of anything. And if you go back to the McLaren, theirs looks a bit tacky compared to the Alfa Romeo. It's another thing I'm not a big fan of are the vents. You'll see with another car later on, I am a fan of their vents, just because of what they do compared to this one in the future. So for that reason, I'd say it's a step ahead, a small step ahead of the Red Bull, so I'll give this a 7 out of 10. So moving on, my top 4 teams are, I think, a step ahead, like a good step ahead of all the other teams as far as design looks, and 4th place for me is gonna be the Williams. Not saying that like it's a bad thing, because I really like what they've done. It's just a simple blue pattern with the electric blue to add some contrast. I especially like what they did with the electric blue Williams logo on the front nose. And then the red. The red works really well in this one, unlike on the Mercedes. It adds just a nice little bit of contrast to it, especially on track. I wasn't the highest on it, their renders, but on track this car is stunning. So for that reason, I'm gonna give this one an 8 out of 10 for this year. I'm a big fan of this year's Williams. Moving on now, on to the podium. In P3, I have the Alpha Tauri, and I must admit, on a day-to-day basis, I do tend to switch around the Williams and Alpha Tauri. I'd say these are both 8 out of 10 liveries, but what does it for me, though, is this render here doesn't exactly cut it, but on track, the navy blue looks a lot more black shade, so it's black and white-esque on track, which makes it look like a BMW Sauber from back in the day. The only thing I must say I don't like on this car is the orange X's on the Flexbox logo. But there's nothing you can do there. It's a logo. You know, they're paying you to put their name on their car, because that's what the cars are. The cars are just big advertisements. Anyway, so there's nothing they can change there. And like I said about the Alpine all the way back at 10th, I didn't like the flag on their car. However, on the Alpha Tauri here, that little Italian flag on the winglet looks really nice, in my opinion. It's just a subtle little, tribute to Italy, where the Alpha Tauri manufacturer is, and it looks nice. And moving on to my favorite parts of this car, I like how they have copied Red Bull, their sister team, and put the logo on the upper end of like the engine cover. That looks really nice. And the swooping Alpha Tauri on the side pod curve looks fantastic this year. So for that reason, it's a tiny little bit ahead of the Williams, in my opinion, but it's still going to be an 8 out of 10. In 2nd place, I have this year's Aston Martin. If you remember what I said about the Alfa Romeo and their vents, this is the car that contrasts that. How they kept the racing green going over the vents looks really nice, and that lime complements it perfectly. The only thing I must say on this car that I'm not the biggest fan of is that they colored in that Aston Martin logo in the yellow. I feel like they did that to make it pop a little bit more compared to the white of the sponsors, but it kind of has the opposite effect and just makes it blend in a little bit more with the green. But that green color is amazing, especially under the lights or just even in sunshine. It shines brilliantly and it looks so nice. So for that reason, this one, it's a simple car. It's gonna take second place for me. I'll give this one an 8.5 out of 10. No, I'll give this one a 9 out of 10. I'll give this a 9 because there really isn't much of anything I could change to make it better. So that leaves in number 1 for me this year, the 2022 Ferrari. I have no idea what they named it. They name it something goofy every year, so I'm not even gonna try with that. The only complaint I must say I have on this car is the black to red gradient on the upper engine cover. I feel like if they just scrap that out entirely, slap the white 75 on there, and then put the Italian flag up above where the 75 is right now, that would make the car pretty much perfect in my opinion, because it's so simple. Just the darker red of the 90s and then the black on the front and rear wing to match it. It's perfect. And especially, like, this is a good looking car too, those bathtub looking side pods and then the swooping vents that go along with it. It is a really nice car to look at. I did have to take away that one little gradient piece on the top, so for that reason it's going to be a 9.5 out of 10. Very close to a perfect score, but not quite. That does it for this year's livery rankings. F1 season's around the corner. Hopefully it's going to be as good as last year's was. I'm going to release my prediction videos after the Bahrain testing so I can get just a slightly better image of how I think the cars are going to perform this year. That's it for this one. I'll see you guys very soon, actually. I think testing starts in less than a week, so I'll get this one out right away and see you guys very, very soon. Bye-bye.